Good evening, everyone. Welcome to D for Drones, the webinar series which will be discussing the application of drones for education and empowerment of youth. Now, this is a part of something that we call Project Wings. And to do the initiation of the webinar today, we have a wonderful lineup of panelists today. And before we begin, we would like to apologize for the entire mishap which happened. Somehow, something technically goes wrong, and even if we all are technologists, sometimes things happen. Anyway, we are extremely apologetic for that. And I hope you are able to see our live video right now on YouTube as well as on Facebook and even on the website. And most of you would be a part of our live event as well. So before we begin, let me just start the introduction. Okay, so the panelists for the day are me. I'm Dr. Ruchi Saxena. I'm from Kerobotics and India Flying Labs. And we have Varun Bhatia, who is, please hold on. And we have Varun Bhatia from Electronic Sector Skills Council of India. So Electronic Skills Sector Council of India is one of the one of the certifying body which is attached to the Skill Development Corporation of India, and he will be presenting to you about the vision that ESSCI has of developing drone skills in India. And we have Sonia Betsha, the wonderful lady from V Robotics, who is the co-founder of V Robotics and one of our mentors. As we do India Flying Labs, we have a network of 24 more flying labs across the world. And Sonia is our key mentor for doing all this. And we use drones for social good applications. So she'll be presenting more on that. And we have Prem Bislawat, who is from Marut Drones. And he'll be talking about his journey in the drone startup ecosystem in India. So about me and my company, I run this company called Kerobotics, which is basically a social impact consultancy firm, and where we are trying to bridge the gap between the society who need the technology and the technologies themselves. We run India Flying Labs, which I told you, and this is the India chapter of the Flying Labs network. Now, India Flying Labs over the last 2 years has grown up to become a family of all the organizations which work for drones for social good applications in India. And we have manufacturers, service providers, NGOs, communities, everyone who have now become one big family. Across the world, we are about 26 flying labs right now, and we are growing, of course. And one basic thing that we always work on is something called humanitarian UAV code of conduct. And that ensures that we always use drones ethically, safely, and responsibly wherever we are. So my story in drones began with this picture. Now, this picture was taken in the far west of Nepal, which is called Darildura. There is a province called Darildura. And I was traveling there with the Red Cross Society. And this is the scene. Now, this is outside a healthcare center in far west of Nepal. And I was wondering, what is this? So why are people coming in with a stretcher? Is it a dead body? Or is it what? No, but this was not a dead body. This was a human being. Now, me as a doctor started thinking, why is this even happening? And I asked my driver. He said that these people have to still travel for about 4 to 6 hours every day before they reach the nearest health center. And this is a scene in most of the countries like Nepal. And for me, coming from Mumbai, which had an environment where you have all the medical stores and all the health centers just at a stone's throw, it was pretty unacceptable that people still have to travel so much to even receive a basic healthcare. So what can be done? I mean, how many healthcare facilities can you imagine in putting up? But yes, something can be done is, at least in the case of emergencies, that people can receive healthcare at the doorstep, and probably technology like a drone can help. And that's how my drone journey actually began, and started looking for organizations which can make these kind of drones which can bridge this gap. And that's when we began this whole thing. The first project that we took up as India Flying Labs was working with this tribal village, wherein these children got super excited with the drones that we were showing them. So again, the question came into my mind that Places like these, which this was about 150 kilometers from Mumbai, but then I will go back to my world. I probably will not live in the village anymore. And if whatever projects we do in the village, who will take it further from us? How do we ensure that whatever work that we carry forward is now scaled up and has been replicated as and also being owned by the people? That's where the answer lies in these curious faces that you see in this picture. These are the future of the country and who now have to start owning up the technologies and start using them comfortably and start mastering them. And that's where we started conceiving about this project called Project Wings, wherein let's not just start about inspiring students to take up a career in science and technology, which is the main goal, but then specifically about drones and drone applications. And when we are talking to them about drones and drone applications, drones are pretty infamous for being used for bombing and for defense and for harming people. But then we want to promote the use of drones for ethical applications. How do we fly drones responsibly? How do we fly them for applications which can trigger development and not destruction? This is the whole agenda of Project Wings. And somewhere along the journey, we came across V Robotics and She Maps and ESSCI. And together, this Project Wings is now a very concrete form wherein we can go to schools and start working with children like these that you see in the picture who have never ever even handled a mobile phone. So this is a picture from Philippines, and these are again the children from a tribal village who are flying the drones for the first time. And with a very little instruction, they were able to do that so well. So this is what the agenda of Project Wings is, that make everyone comfortable using drones so that everyone can fly drones. The key question for this entire webinar series, and especially for today, is how are the drones the next big thing, and why our children must learn them now? This is the big question that we have today. And to talk about this, we will start our panel discussion later. But before that, we have Varun, Varun Bhatia from Electronic Skills Sector Council of India. And Varun, I request you to unmute yourself and just give us a perspective about the vision which ESSCI has about the drones in India.
Yeah, thank you so much, Ruchi, and good afternoon to all. I hope everyone is safe, secure wherever we are in this pandemic. And yeah, it's a very interesting topic, and ESCCI is very keen to work with the Kai Robotics. So when we first got this call and when we got initiated with this project, and specifically, when we talk about the school education, which is the base for any kind of a higher education or the pillar that we want to build for the country, and so we were very excited for with this project. And yes, ESCCI is one of the apex body in the country working under the Ministry of Skill Development and Entrepreneurship, and which are our main core area of responsibility lies in creating the standards and benchmarking them against the whatever our industry expectations, whatever our basic criteria which industry wants, any kind of a skill set that is being expected by them. So we make sure whatever work we do in the field of skill sets or whatever the benchmark we lay down for any kind of a skills that we're gonna work, it is absolutely far above the excellence. It is absolutely in line with the industry need, and it should give something better to the society. So that's our aim and vision. And while talking about this drone technology and specifically, this school-based education system STEM, in which under this criteria we want to put this drone technology. And as we all know, in today's scenario, I mean, a drone is one of a keen, a new kind of a gadget which is being introduced, and there are a lot many application and opportunities starting from a very young age. When a kid is like he's in class 6 or 7, he gets excited with the technology, and if we are able to kind of do a little tinkering and just able to showcase him like what this technology is all about, and by the virtue of more education we impart to him, probably he can gain more knowledge by that time, and then sky is the limit basically. And a drone is one of the category which is being classified under a UAV, unmanned aerial vehicle. And if he is able to learn something in this area, drone, and then quadra chopper, and then going forward a UAV, which is the highest degree of this particular object, right? So he has a lot of opportunities for him. And today drone is being looked after like a very important technology when we want to do security, when we want to take care of any kind of in the public and private sector, and logistic, agriculture, telecom. So lot many of applications are there with drone, and we are very positive, and we really look this technology will give a lot of education and will give a lot of break even to the youngsters basically. And with the Ruchi ma'am, Kai Robotics, and other industry partners that we have, we really look forward for a very great opportunity where we can showcase, we can nourish our young talent kids basically, and help them. And if they want to pursue their career in this area, they can get something in the beginning of their education. So I'm really excited. I'm thankful to Ruchi ma'am for organizing this webinar, because she was the one who really laid down the stone and benchmarked, and we are just supporting them. And we really are thankful to you, ma'am, and look forward for this webinar series, and going forward, bunch of it, we're gonna organize like this. So thank you so much, and over to you, ma'am.
Thank you so much, Varun. You have really given us a vision, and I really believe that, when I started off, the whole scenario was like, imagine if you have 100 hospitals to be connected using drones. To connect these
Yeah,
100 hospitals, you would need, let's say, 100 drone ports.
yeah,
Every drone port would probably need at least 5 staff, at least.
sure.
And
True, that's true.
if these 5 staff, if you multiply by 100, then you need at least 500 skilled people to be
Mm,
working full time only on drones. When I
yeah,
thought about that, I'm like, ecosystem starts with people. So the
sure.
full jigsaw puzzle that we have here is about people. And skill
Yes,
development is the thing that we should be focusing on for India and for the drone industry in India. And I'm very happy with your support that you have really generously provided us. And I really hope that we live up to the expectations and we're able to bring drones to every school across the country, no matter
absolutely,
where they are, not just Mumbai, Bangalore,
absolutely.
Delhi, and Kolkata, but then even the villages, even the tier 2 cities, even tier 3 cities, government schools,
Hmm,
private schools, public schools, all of them. Thank you so much for your support.
absolutely.
Thank you,
Pleasure, man.
Varun.
Pleasure. Thank you.
And now, to introduce to you the super lady, Sonia Beschert, and she's from Switzerland. She is super passionate about drones herself. And to talk about the women leaders in drones, she's one of the faces that we should really be looking up to. And Sonia, I would really welcome you with all my heart and thank you once again coming to India now virtually and sharing your vision with us. We would love to know your story, your work in drones. Why do you really believe in the drones for good, and how are you taking this entire ecosystem of drones for good further? Over to you, Sonia.
Thank you so much, Ruchi. Thank you for inviting me and for letting me being part of that. Very happy to be able to get in virtually from Switzerland and being part of that first webinar day today. Thank you so much, Ruchi. So for me, I wanted to talk a little bit just about the Flying Labs network first, and to talk about how young leaders all around the planet are taking over right now locally responsibility to help train many youth and many professionals in their countries. So in the introduction, Ruchi shared with us that India Flying Labs is part of a network. So let me just share my screen with you. So I can, let me see if this works. It should work. Does it work, Ruchi? Can you see my screen?
Yes, we can.
Great, fantastic. So, as
Now
Ruchi said in the beginning, so India Flying Labs is part of an international network of many knowledge hubs who work with drones around the planet. So at V Robotics, we are co-creating and facilitating this network. And this network today has over 25 flying labs on the planet. It started 5 years ago with 3 flying labs, and it's growing by about 1 flying lab a month. So it keeps on growing each year. And all of these flying labs are led by local leaders in their countries. Leaders who are, like Ruchi, getting recognized in their countries for their achievements, for their making change in their countries, for supporting many professionals, may it be from governments to NGOs, to even private companies, but especially supporting youth in the country and inspiring youth to follow in their footsteps. So this is why it is so important that we have local leaders like Dr. Ruchi, who's taking over in a country and who keeps on doing the work that all these flying labs do around the planet on a very local level. So Ruchi shared with us why she became interested in drones. So I just wanted to share with you why I am so passionate about drones too. For me, drones, it's less about transport, it's more about data. Drones have allowed me personally to be able to acquire my own data. So my background and my previous work was in nature conservation, doing many nature conservation projects around the planet. So for what I was always missing in a lot of my project was data, was updated and high resolution geospatial data that would allow me to put the different data I got from animals that had a lot of times trackers on them, to put them on a map, to understand the bigger picture. So when drones became accessible to researchers like me, which was in 2013, for the first time in my professional life, I was able to acquire my own data from the sky, get a different point of view. Like here, a project I did in the Seychelles that allowed us to count baby sharks and baby rays and get a view of the environment. Or a project I was running in Namibia, for the first time ever, we were able to much better count animals and identify them from the sky without having the budget to rent the helicopter. We had small budgets, so we couldn't rent the plane or rent the helicopter, and work was really difficult because we missed this kind of point of view from the top. And this is why I fell in love with drones, because it allowed me to create my own data. And I'm not a drone specialist. I'm not somebody who has studied engineering or drone engineering or robotics in school. So for me as a researcher to be able to do this myself, I was really amazed how easy this technology is. And this is where it led, in project like this one also for reforestation, to be able to show communities how do the reforestation efforts look from the sky. It led me to co-create V-Robotics with my colleagues to inspire other local leaders to create their own data. So when we work with drones in the field, what we have learned is that actually drones is the small part of the work. The big part is either about data or, like Dr. Ruchi said before, about transporting something from A to B. That's where a lot of the time gets spent. And also it is a lot about community and stakeholder engagement. So for me, apart from being able to create my own data, what I have learned over time why drones are of so much value is it allows to engage with local communities. Whenever you unpack a drone, it takes some minutes, sometimes some seconds, until you have a lot of children running up and wanting to learn more. So once the children are there, you wait for 5 or 10 minutes, and then the adults come, the parents come. And if you wait for a little bit longer, for half an hour or an hour, then the grandparents come. So in villages, you get to engage a lot of the local villagers and explain them about what you're acquiring data for example. It allows to create a lot of curiosity on new technologies they might have never seen. As Ruchi said before, in the experience she made in the Philippines, the children had never seen a smartphone. So these children here in villages where I did projects have never seen a drone, but they're very curious. They're very curious about learning what can this be used for. And as these projects always have a scope on acquiring data, for example, to solve a local challenge in this village or in this region, it's a great tool to engage with the villagers and to explain what this research is done for, why this data is needed, how it will help them to make good decisions or better decisions in the future, how it will help their leaders to take the right decisions for this area or for these villages. So in all, though, I think you can feel it, how passionate I am about drones. I am so much more passionate about what drones can do and the many things they are allowed to solve, and to do it together with the local villages, with the people who are actually part of the solution, who can help implement the solution locally. So again, back to the local leaders, back to the ones who live in the areas and who need to do this work together with their local.
Hello.
Sonia, I think you're on mute.
Sorry, you are muted. Yes.
Sonia, you're on mute.
Sorry.
Yes. Thank you.
Sorry. So whenever we, Flying Labs do projects in the villages they are, it's a great way to interact with children, to get them curious about STEM, to explain data, to explain technology, and for them to see firsthand what can be done with different kind of technologies. It's a great way also to engage girls. So this, I remember, was a project in Africa where we were acquiring data for agriculture project, and the girls coming home from school passed through there, and the next day they brought the whole school with their teacher to learn more about these kind of technologies. So already through the project work, all the Flying Labs are engaging on a daily basis with youth when they're in the field. But today, what is really exciting to see in the Flying Labs network is that Flying Labs are having dedicated youth programs for very specific, I would say, youth groups. So, for example, here a program that just started 2 weeks ago in Papua New Guinea, where it is about coding against COVID and using drones also in doing so in a virtual way, because there's a lockdown in Papua New Guinea. Or a dedicated youth program in Peru with local villages in the Peruvian Amazon for smaller children. Then here, a very different youth program for a bit older youth already, who are interested in agriculture and who would like to see how they can add drone technology to agriculture projects in their countries. Young girls taking part of Fly Like a Girl drone camp in Jamaica, for example. Or the training that Ruchi talked about with partners like SheMaps in the Philippines that wants to be spread throughout the whole Flying Labs network to engage with youth. Like here, for example, in Tanzania, where young girls learn how to use drones in a virtual way, because there's to learn coding skills and to learn data skills. So many dedicated youth programs with the goal to inspire youth on STEM, with the goal to inspire them to take action into their own hand and find solutions with the help of technologies for their problems in their areas. And mostly an image we already seen before, just to awaken their curiosity and to make them smile and to give them an inspiration how they can become the leaders of tomorrow using technology for it. Thank you so much, Ruchi, for letting me share.
Thank you so much, Sonia. Before we go on to the discussion, let's also hear Prem Vishlavat. Prem, are you there?
Yes, Dr. Richa, I'm there.
So Prem Vishlavat is one of the leading drone startups in India. And in a very short span of time, he has created a space for himself, especially for applications of drones in good. Prem, we would love to know from you, how did you start? What made you so passionate about drones? How was your journey with the drones? And especially, what did you see when you grow up, in the schools or in the colleges? What kind of encouragement that you received? And how is India preparing for the drone ecosystem? What does the drone market look like, especially for the youngsters who are trying to get into this entire field? Is it worth it? Is it not worth it? Is it promising? Not promising? We would like to know your new views about it. Over to you.
So, thank you, Dr. Richa. Everybody, I was also fascinated a lot with the flight and flying birds and everything. So, majorly, I've started the drone as a space to bring the leverage the emerging technologies like this and solve the community problems. So drone has become a new technology for us to understand, and we started understanding a set of 4 problems where we started working on it. So where first we identified the majorly the agriculture and the mosquito eradication of the 2 space, and then we have scaled it to the scalable reforestation and medical delivery. These are the 4 focus area which we are working at present. And in the course of time, we observed is when we are talking to the elders and everything, there's a lot of constraint of thought process and everything. Then we started reaching out to schools and we started involving them in the few of the projects. Then we started understanding, getting a lot of the quirky ideas and new ideas from the people and the composition. So we've divided a team into a mix of school student and into the more of the professionals, and started doing the brainstorming. Then we understood the real need of the drones in education level, where for the problem solving and everything. So that's where our journey started, and we see it's scaling it. And now because of COVID, little bit we have slowed down in the reaching out to schools and everything. But after this September and everything, we are trying to create more of a smaller drone labs and do this hackathons with the students, and give them a lot of problems with solving statements and work with them.
So Prem, would you like to share about the different applications that you're using drones for?
Yes, I will just. So I'm sharing my screen. So these are the 4 applications predominantly we're using it for: the mosquito eradication, afforestation, agriculture, and the medical delivery. So where we have a focus, we worked with the first as a mosquito eradication. We fly drone, we understood where the hotspot is, the mosquitoes are there, and we are able to reduce the 60% of the mosquito larvae, and we provided the solutions at 1/50th cost, and we have saved the workforce which are getting affected with all these mosquitoes. Okay. So, and similarly, like we understood the deforestation as a space, the forest, then we started understanding how we use drones and plant trees and everything. So course of time, we've started building all this product from last 2 years. So now we are in a stage where scaling to different cities and different places.
Hello, Prem, are you there? Hello, Prem? I'm not sure what's with Prem. Okay. So while we are here, I would request the participants to put forward your questions so that we can understand your level of curiosity about drones and what you know about drones so far. And how do you see the drones being used for education, and what would it be like? So while we are receiving some questions from the participants, Sonia would like to ask from you, uh, how many how many of the flying labs have started using drones for the youth? I know that you have a youth program coming up in V Robotics as a separate program altogether. So what would be the vision of that youth program, and how it would be probably led, and how would it be scaled down to the different schools in different countries? Can you give us a perspective of that?
Thank you. I gladly can, Ruchi. So I would say today about 75% of flying labs are having already youth programs. Each of them is either partnering with local STEM partners or organizations that already are implementing other kind of technology programs for youth. So what I really like about it is that the fact that each country kind of, does its own thing, meaning that each country finds a program that is already in place and adds drones to it, or works together with local organizations to really find programs that make sense for the country. So we have an international partner called SheMaps who has a program that we also share with Flying Labs. But a lot of Flying Labs then take parts of that program and add their own part to it. And that's what I really like about it is to say that each country will kind of build their own curriculum together with local partners and adapt it to the country, adapt it to the needs, adapt it for the applications, and make it their own. So what I'm really looking forward to, and what you explained, is that we are creating a whole program around it, which will allow Flying Labs to share back their experiences to the other Flying Labs and inspire each other what else could be done. There's so many great ideas coming out left and right with new programs that through that, what we call it youth robotics program, different Flying Labs will be able to share their curriculums and take from, one curriculum, for example, from Tanzania and add something from Jamaica and add something from PNG and build their own program for their own country's needs with their local partners.
Thank you, Sonia. And so, do you feel that the drone technology can become as simple that a 16-year-old can easily do something with it, like even at the skill level? So, what we're looking at in India is that to introduce it as a vocational course. So, vocational courses generally can be done after your class 10. So class 10 is when your high school is over. And after that, they would start using the drones as a vocation. So it could be that you can either get into manufacturing, maintenance, electronics, coding, or something like that. So do you feel the drone technology is as simple as that children can be trusted to do that?
Well, see, I always take myself as an example. So I'm not a technical person, and if I'm able to master it, I think anybody who has an interest for technology can. Why I was able to do it so easily is because today drones are fully integrated tools. So they're automated. First of all, automated robots. So it allows through different kind of software to easily actually be able to use drones and to fly drones without needing, I would say, the amazing skill of acquiring data in a good way. So they're supported by different software. They're easy to use. And what I really like about it too is the fact that for anybody, it will be a tool. For me, it has become a camera, a flying camera. So for anybody in different sectors they're interested in vocational training, it just can become one more tool. So it's not about the drone, it's actually what you do with it. And I have seen from so many experiences that, anybody who already is interested in a subject will easily add just another tool to it. So I'm very confident that vocational training in, ages 16 and older, it's going to be easy to integrate it, especially if you make it part of their training and not, if you don't make it about the drone, but if you make it about the application and the outcome.
And Sonia, a lot of times we listen from We Robotics and Flying Labs that we want to work in humanitarian space and not in non-humanitarian applications like defense or police. So why is that, and why do we want children to focus on the good applications and not anything else?
Well, for me, again, I think it's about the need. There's so much need out there for example, for data, or there's so much need in connecting, like you said before, Ruchi, one village with another for some simple transport. There's a lot of need. And that's on the one side. On the other side, there's the technology that is there today. So the only thing is to bridge the two, is to have the local experts, and I hope many, many youth getting interested in that, in using the technology that is already there to fill the need. So I think it's all about connecting, and it's about inspiring youth to use these new technologies to help them find better solutions.
Indeed. And do you see the drone market grow enough to have enough jobs for all the children, so that if we decide to make it like a mainstream curriculum? You remember when in 1990s when computers first came in, how scared we were to even touch the computers in the class, and the computer lab was kind of the most special lab in the entire school, and it had this what do you say, higher than life kind of effect, that okay, this is not books, it's something very different. You get to touch things, you get to touch technology. So I really see drones to be the computers of the next century. And if it is like that, where do you see, I mean, should we start aspiring our children to have a career in drones? And do you think that it's going to grow that much that okay, they would be able to carry out their entire life around this drone applications?
So I definitely believe that the industry is still very young. So it's an industry who started out, the civilian drone industry started out in 2013. So it has come a long way in the last 7 years. Drones have become way more affordable. They have become better. They have become easier to use. So then I think, if you look at the industry for youth, there's so many opportunities. So there's first the opportunity to build your own drone, or to, work for or create your own company that is not just about the hardware, but also about the software. That is about the platforms behind. So just that is an industry by itself. But then the way bigger industry, again, that, I think has a lot of opportunities for youth is the application. How would you use drones as a tool? So this is, I would say, this has about 80% of the opportunities, while the drone market, the industry by itself, has already at 20%. Again, with building, or also, new needs coming out. Once you have drones, you need repair centers for them. You need better ways of handling your data. So there are so many different jobs that can be linked to it, and I think it's very good to compare it to the computer industry, or even to the cell phone industry. It will change. It will change many different, I would say, jobs in just adding a tool on top of it, and there can be so many jobs created out of that in very specific ways.
Interesting, Sonia. Do you feel about the laws which are being formed in various countries now? Because you're in touch with so many governments across the world who are trying to make the drone laws. Where do you see the space for the youth in that? Do you feel the drone laws which are being now, that they're more fear centric rather than application centric?
Yeah, that's absolutely right. I think today, what I see from the many countries we work with, and the regulations around drones, it's still a very young space, and there's still a lot of learning that needs to be done. So I think what the regulators need, they need a lot of inspiration on applications, and they need to see what is the potential of drones, just apart from just flying a drone. What is the potential behind? What can you find in terms of applications? And again, I think the youth has, the youth has that freshness and has the creativity to also come up with new applications. And that's why I think it's so important also to integrate youth as of now, because they will have the ideas. What are the applications tomorrow? They will inspire us on what we could use these technologies for. And in a sector where regulations are being written, and these regulations will evolve over time, to implicate directly the leaders of tomorrow, to let them share their aspirations for these kind of technologies, and for connecting them together with the regulators to build together. I think we need to build these regulations together. It's not the regulators who can do it by themselves, and it's not us who have all the knowledge that we need to make the airspace safe. So it is a collaboration, and to bring in already the leaders of tomorrow and bring in their ideas and their aspirations. I think this is where all of us will build a space together that is going to grow, and that is going to have a lot of different opportunities.
So you and I both come from human-centered design, and we talk about human-centered design. So when we are designing programs for children, how do we interact with children to keep them in the center of the program? And we as adults in our 30s and 40s are going to decide what would be the future of 10 and 15-year-olds. So how do we go about, as multi-stakeholder group, having children as the key stakeholders in this entire design?
It's a very good question that I don't have an answer to, because I think we're all learning, we're all in the middle of this process of learning. But I think this is where methodology like human-centered design can help us, always going back to the ones we create for. So always asking for feedback, always letting them also perhaps in a program a little bit of space to come up with their own ideas and be able to be part of shaping the program themselves, being able to tell us what they would be interested in or what they would see as a next step for themselves. I think that's where methodologies like human-centered design always remind us that it's not us who have the knowledge on how to build the best program. We might have some of the knowledge, but it's always good to start and to go back to the ones we actually designed for and ask them what they need and what they would be interested in.
So that's what I'm trying to understand. Like, for example, if we want to design a curriculum for drones, and if we start thinking the way we have been schooled, the way we had our schooling was pretty structured. We were in a box. But these kids today are thinking out of the box. So we would probably have to, I don't know how to think like them. But definitely, yes, that as educators, as school management, as the drone professionals or the drone educators, we're combining two things together, or as the government making laws, somewhere we need to figure out how to keep the children in the center of whatever we do.
Absolutely, I think, but it's all a question we ask ourselves, and I think the where I see today a really big advantage is by working together. With so many countries and so many flying labs to learn from each other, and then each of them working with local partners and local experts on youth programs. And by not doing this ourselves, by not thinking to reinvent something by ourselves, but by sharing as much as we can with each other. And so how do you make sure that we leave space open for children to tell us about what they would like to see? I think it's by asking these questions, already asking the question and collaborating with many others around the planet, I think will help us come up with the best answers. But again, I don't have the answer for it, definitely not.
So now we have a question from one of the participants asking, what are the skill sets required for a drone professional and how can we go about getting it?
A very good question. I think, that the first skill for me is always is curiosity. I think you need to be curious. And this is it helps so much with STEM education too, because it's all about curiosity and imagination and creativity. But then the good thing with drones is you also need to follow rules. Again, there's going to be regulations. There are already regulations. There's checklists to work with. So it's a very methodical approach to fly a drone, not only in a professional way, but also in an ethical way. And I think another skill, when I don't know if you have seen my presentation before, but if you look in the work with flying labs, so again, the drone is about 10%. It's about 45% about the application, so a lot of times about the data, and 45% about community engagement and stakeholder engagement. So another important skill actually needed is communication and collaboration and being able to get information from the people you will create data for to understand their problems, so to engage with them. So while it is a very technical job in many ways, there's a lot of human skills are also needed and communication skills. And again, it's only the drone is always going to be part of something. It's almost going to be a puzzle, like a part of a puzzle. So to be able to collaborate, to be able to facilitate with others, to be able to be part of an ecosystem is a very, very important skill that's a lot of times overlooked because you think, it's just a technical tool. And once I know how to use the tool, this is going to be the job.
True. That's true, Sonia. And we also have a question which is asking, what are the best educational drone programs around and what somebody can aspire for?
So again, I would not be the best person to, know about the best programs around. The best programs, in my eyes, are the ones who are adapted locally, I think, and who work together with the local actors who are already active in this space. So I think this is the best programs are the ones who bring together, I would say, experts like Ruchi, on drones and the applications in India, with local organizations who are already working on STEM programs, and with communities locally who can say what are their most urgent need for the future. I think the best programs are the ones that are adapted at a very local level to actually take into account applications of the area, applications of this region, applications of this state, to inspire the youth to stay in their areas also and help solve their own problems using technology.
True, Sonia. Last month we had a course which we had run for about 30 days. And in that we had 30 topics that we discussed for 30 days with 30 speakers and 30 assignments. So it was very well received by the participants. And for me, again, it is like, you have a lot of drone license or training programs wherein you learn how to fly drone. So that is kind of one tiny part of the whole training ecosystem. But there is something before that, and there is going to be something after that. So I see it like a broad range of topics that you can take throughout the continuum, right from the schools where you can start inspiring the children about how to get comfortable with drones. And that's where I like She-Maps programs, wherein within the first 25 minutes you start flying the drone and you get completely comfortable with it and you learn to do it safely and effectively. Then comes the stage where you learn to, even in the school, you learn how to use drones for applications like disasters or mapping. You learn the basics of it and you learn how to land accurately, you learn how to code, learn how to start mapping, and you learn how to program your drone. And then it comes about drone assembly. So there are a lot of institutions which are running programs on how to assemble a drone. After that comes when you make a bigger drone, and then comes your stage where you start talking about the electronics, or you start talking about how to fly drone as a professional. And that's, I think, after the age of 18 years when you can do that in India. And beyond that, once you have learned how to fly a drone, comes a real life applications where you start working as a drone professional in the industry. Then you learn about mapping, you learn about putting up the ground control points well, you learn about planning your missions very well, you learn about the budgets, you learn about project management. These are all the different advanced applications. So we in India Flying Labs and Robotics have conducted programs even for the disaster management professionals, so wherein you see that you are already working in the field of disasters and you are a disaster management professional. Now you're trying to add one more skill to your work, and that is about flying drone and using drone. So this is where we are trying to bridge in the gap, and probably we'll have more programs coming in for the healthcare industry, for separate programs for fire brigades, separate programs for the farmers. So this is going to happen over the next couple of years, Sonia. And so this is what we haven't planned again. But this entire webinar series, you will also hear from a lot of experts over the next 7 days who will be talking about different aspects of bringing this into the mainstream education. And we'll be talking about skill development, about internships, about jobs, and we'll be talking about all the advanced things that we can do with drones. So over the next 7 days, we'll be having these discussions with a lot of our panelists. So I think we should be coming to the end of this webinar, Sonia. Thank you very much, everyone, for joining us. And we would like to have a parting remark from you, Sonia, because I don't think we'll be seeing you over the next 7 days again.
Thank you so much, Ruchi. Thank you again for inviting me and for being able to to share some of my ideas with you. I think if I have one final remark, it is really to get inspired, not just to inspire youth, but to get inspired by youth, by their curiosity, and by letting them also tell us how they see the future with these kind of technologies, and by letting them be an integral part of any education program that we build for them, to really be able to, not to take over and to put our ideas on them, but to be able to get inspired by them and build an amazing or many amazing youth programs together with the youth.
Sonia, we have a lot of students also here in this webinar itself. So children, I would like to show you my tiny drone.
Ruchi, you're on mute.
Yeah, you're still on mute.
Okay, sorry. So we have a lot of children in this webinar itself. I can see a couple of them over here. So kids, this is the drone that I fly, and this is something that you can also try to get yourself. And but always remember that drones are way more than a toy. And even if you buy them, even if you fly them, you have to fly them absolutely safely. How to do that? We'll be definitely helping you out. And even now, I mean, it's a lockdown situation. We would have loved to come to and travel to every city and every town and every village and give this education to you. but we're just waiting for the lockdown to get over before we scale it up. But this is the drone which we will be getting to your schools. This, or there are more drones which we'll be getting to you. And we would love to see you fly these drones and challenge each other and play games with it. And we have designed all of these games very carefully with our experts, as well as the student experts that we have in our groups, who have guided us how to do that. And we have a lot of school management over here. So schools, be ready to have another lab in your schools, which won't be just a computer lab anymore. It would be a robotics or a drone lab, wherein these children would love to see, you would love to see the smiles and the excitement that they get when they fly the drones for the first time. And I'm super eager to see this thing happen in all your schools very soon. And we'll be launching, Sonia, something that we would call Project Wings mentorship program, wherein we'll be identifying mentors from the community itself, who would get trained and then start delivering these in their local communities. So obviously we cannot do it across the country or across the region, but we would love to have more and more mentors join us. And just in the idea of how SheMaps does it, they have educators from the school who get trained in becoming drone mentors, and they start using these drones in their curriculum. So for example, you remember trigonometry in the schools? I realized the application of trigonometry when I was trying to make a flight path for a drone. And you realize that if you have a mountain and you have to decide if you have a fixed wing plane, and how far should your drone port be so that it doesn't crash into the mountain. And then you decide the entire lift and then the path of it. So all the geometry that you try to study in schools now can be well learned using drones. That's my aim, so that the geometry, the algebra, the science, the history, the geography, the arts, the creativity, everything becomes way more interesting when you have drones in your hand. And the idea would be that teachers take into the classroom these drones and give these as assignments to the students as a part of the curriculum, not as a co-curricular or an extracurricular activity. So with the help of ESSCI, we will be definitely doing that over the next 1 year, 1.5 years. But I'm just waiting for the lockdown to get over, and I'm really hoping all of you are safe in your houses and taking care of your families. So before we part, Varun, we would like to hear from you a
Yeah,
parting remark for the
sure.
webinar.
Thanks, Ruchi. I think it's a really wonderful session to start with and to kick off with. Hats off to all the work done by the team, and really looking forward to the next topics for the webinars. And I was just going by my school time. When I was in school, college, I really wished to become a pilot. I really thought to have a pilot license, but unfortunately, destiny is something else. But now I think it's again an opportunity for us, and I really want to become and get my pilot license for this drone, and really looking forward for it. And all the best, and thank you to everyone to be the part of this session. I think some of you could not able to join on time because we had a shift from Microsoft Team to this Google. So I think now going forward, we would be having this link, and we would be using it for our next couple of days and the webinar that we had, right, Ruchi?
Yes, Varun. I would first go back to my
Yes.
laptop and erase the old work and reinstall
Yep,
the
yep,
new
yep,
work. And I'm very sorry
yep.
for this entire juggle which happened at the last minute. Technology
No, it's
sometimes just fails us,
yep,
and
yep.
you
No
stop
issues, no issues.
believing in the things that you've already done for so long, and you start, working with new things, thinking that they may have
Yeah,
some more attractive features. But then, the old
yes,
goes the best, and I think the Google is
that's true.
still pretty okay. I didn't find any difficulty
Yep.
with that. So everybody, you will receive a fresh email from me. There will be two emails. One would be cancellation of the old Microsoft Teams event, and the second one would be a new event that we'll be creating in Google Meet for all of you, and we would be seeing you tomorrow. And we have a couple of questions about the legal issues,
Yeah,
the laws that you would have to follow when you have drones in schools. So we'll be covering this on day 7. We would be having people from the government
correct.
and from the policy advisors to the government who will be
Yeah.
speaking to you. We would be having very interesting speakers which have been lined up, and we have worked hard for
Hmm.
this webinar series. So we'll see you over the next 7 days, and obviously beyond that as well. So thank you so much, everybody, for joining us today. Thank you, Sonia. Thank you, Varun. Thank you, everybody. I would like to thank my
Yeah.
team, Amit, Aman, and Nidhi, who have supported us in this webinar series. Thank you so much, everyone. See you tomorrow. Goodbye.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Bye. Bye.